Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Lucky. That comes to be the theme of the day, is a little luckiness. But so with that said, is there anybody that's going to get a little lucky with the NBA trade deadline?
Actually, somebody just did.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you saw this yet, but the Bucks acquired PJ Tucker. What we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Announce it live officially,
okay,
so we can all hear it.
So the Bucks acquire PJ Tucker from the Rockets, who is currently hurt. But we talked about this, about defensive guy, and that was one of the guys you brought up, right?
Yeah. So the Bucks, who are currently like number 7 in my power rankings, they don't even make the list.
Correct.
I like the deal. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're trying to get better, but that doesn't mean they're going to be scoring more points. I mean, the Bucks just need more firepower. You can't just sit there and rely on Giannis Antetokounmpo all day long. You know, I mean, I love PJ Tucker. He's a great defensive player. He's an alpha dog on the defensive side of the court. He can knock down the three-point shot. But to me, that's not going to get the Bucks over the hump.
No. And they did beat the 76ers today, but that was Joel Embiid. It's less. So there's that for you.
All right, so I'll just go over a couple of guys that I'm looking at here. We've got the NBA trade deadline coming up on March 25th, and we don't have a lot of superstars out there, so you guys aren't going to be seeing any big names floating around before the trade deadline. But I did want to talk about a couple of key guys that I think could make an impact on some contenders. And so the first guy I want to talk about is Terry Rozier. Now, there are reports out there that the Clippers would make a trade for him. Terry Rozier on the Hornets, he's averaging 20 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting a career high 48% from the field, shooting 43% from downtown. And I love the fit here. I'm not sure if the Clippers can get this deal done, but I mean, if you're looking at it from their perspective, dude, they have to get a deal done. They need a point guard. Pat Beverly, which we talked about earlier on the show, he's my alpha dog, plays great defense. He's having some knee issues right now. He's going to come back. But you need another scoring option on this team immediately. You've got to have a number 3 option behind Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And the reason I say that is because you've got Lou Williams sitting over there shooting the 3 ball, but he's a streaky shooter. He's not a guy that you're going to be able to depend on, you know, day in and day out, especially in a 7-game series when we approach the playoffs. You look at Terry Rozier. If they can figure out a way to trade for him, I mean, he's averaging 20 points per game and only 33 minutes per game. And he's a very underrated player. And I think the Clippers, they've got to add somebody. And, I mean, $19 million a year for Terry Rozier is very expensive. But I don't think the Clippers have a choice, because if they don't figure out a way to get him, they're not going to have a legitimate shot at winning a championship this year. You look at a guy like Kawhi Leonard. He's not getting any younger. I mean, Paul George is not getting any younger.
Nope.
They've got to add somebody. Nope. They have to add him now. Or, you know, at some point it's going to be too late. These guys are going to be too old. So I like the Clippers here to try to add that piece. Don't know if it's going to happen, but what do you think about that, Tanner? You'd like to add if they can get Terry Rozier on the Clippers?
Look, they need somebody, and Terry would be a great fit for those guys. Like, the Clippers have 3 teams on their trail right now at 16 losses, and Clippers at 15 losses. You had Denver Nuggets with Jokic, MVP possibility. You had Dame show right there on you, and the San Antonio Spurs sitting right there. Like, the Clippers are almost in threat to fall down to 7, if not possibly the 8th spot, if it comes to it. Like, they got to do something. They got to make a move, and they got to make a move quick. Because you're not going to catch. I mean, the Lake show's right there with 13 losses, but you're 2.5 games back on those guys. Or 2 games back. You're not going to get them. don't worry about the Lake Show. You got to figure out how to maintain that 4 spot in that division to have a chance to even get to that possibility of a championship.
Yeah, I mean, there's other names floating around out there for the Clippers.
JJ Redick
Yeah,
could be a spot again.
And then I've even heard a name like Ricky Rubio floating around out there. I mean, I hope to God that, you got an owner like Steve Ballmer. He's got the money. He doesn't care if he has to pay the luxury tax. Please don't add Ricky Rubio. I mean, honestly, guys, if anybody can hear me out there, I hope to God they don't add him.
Don't go after him. Leave him where he's at.
Because he's over the hill. But Terry Rozier is the guy, and if I can just call him Scary Terry Rozier,
Scary Terry.
Maybe that will help them get the deal done.
Look, they got to get it done. It's plain and simple. They got to get it done. Patrick Beverly is, he possibly will be in and out the rest of the year until playoff time. So you got to have somebody there that can solidify that spot.
Yeah, although I do think they're going to have to give up a lot because you're looking at the Hornets. I mean, you got MJ sitting over there with LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier. I mean, I'm thinking
Terry
Jordan
Rozier
kind of likes that team right now. He's going to be asking a pretty penny.
He's got Devontae over there looking pretty damn good.
Well, I think he'll give up Devontae.
You really think
Oh, yeah, before Terry Rozier in a heartbeat.
I don't know about that, but I don't know. We'll have to see what exactly happens. But, yeah, you are still looking at a pretty price, I think, no matter what you come out of the Hornets.
Yeah, it just depends on how good of an owner we think Michael Jordan is, I guess.
That's true,
But
too, right?
Maybe he can show us. Yeah, he showed us a lot as a player. Maybe he can show us a little bit more as an owner.
Maybe he'll take this personal, too. So.
Yeah, maybe he'll take it personally. So moving on to the next guy that I wanted to talk about that, again, these guys aren't superstars, but they are really, really good players that a lot of these contenders need their services. So I want to bring up Victor Oladipo, and apparently the Miami Heat are interested in acquiring him from the Rockets. Victor Oladipo is averaging 21, 5, and 5 on 40% shooting right now. And this is a similar situation to me like the Clippers. I mean, you're looking at the Miami Heat. So they were in the NBA Finals last year. And what do they need? They need a number 3 option. So if these guys, the Miami Heat, if they want to get back to the finals or even be able to compete with the Brooklyn Nets, because right now I don't think they can even do that when KD comes back. I would like to see this deal get done because I think it'd be great for the NBA to have a little bit better competition. Now, the Miami Heat, they actually have enough cap space right now.
Yeah.
So if they can get the trade done, they're going to be able to sign Victor Oladipo next year. But I'm not sure if the Miami Heat are willing to give up Duncan Robinson in the deal. And I think they'll have to at least give up that, if not Tyler Hero. Now, I'm not going to give up Tyler Hero. There's no way in hell I would do that deal. But if you can package Duncan Robinson with some draft picks or something like that to bring in a guy like Victor Oladipo, I mean, Victor Oladipo was the number 1 option on the Indiana Pacers just a couple years back. And he's actually a star player. And, we were sitting here all along, beginning of the year, preseason, it's the Nets. But this would make it interesting if you can add a guy like that to the Heat. And I could see them going back to the NBA Finals, but as currently constructed, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. There's no way in hell they're going to beat the Brooklyn Nets unless you add a number 3 option like this.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting today as well. The Myers-Leonard trade went through. So, obviously, Oklahoma City is not going to keep Leonard. He's going to be on the free agent list, obviously. But Trevor Ariza just got traded to Miami, which should help them out with some depth as well. He should be available on Friday. But it's going to be interesting. Victor Oladipo, if you're bringing him in this late in the season, and if he can stay healthy for the last half of this half going into the playoffs, you got another weapon right there with Jimmy Butler and Bam, right? This is going to be great. But like you said, though, who are you giving up? You don't want to give up Tyler Hero.
Well, I think Duncan Robinson has a lot of value because he's basically right now, I think he's the best 3-point shooter in the league, if I'm not mistaken, at least top 3. So, I mean,
Is there a chance you give up Dragic as well?
well, Dragic is a bum, so yeah, hell yeah, I'd give up Dragic.
So you
I
give
mean,
Dragic?
he's washed up. We love to use the word washed.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah,
guys
he-
haven't noticed out there.
I mean, he is second string, but yeah, I mean, he's
He's
still,
actually more washed than Cam Newton, if I can just... Mike, you can give your opinion on that here in a minute if you want to, but Dragic is a washed NBA player.
I think if you give up Duncan and Dragic, I think you get a fair return coming into you. At least another guy that can maybe even come off the bench or maybe take replace of none. So, like, I wouldn't mind this at all. I would take that trade, and I think it would bolster the Heat. They're at 4 seed right now, or 4 seed in their division, and I think this could even boost them up to that 3 spot if it came to it.
All right, so do you guys have any other thoughts before we move on to the NBA power rankings? I don't want to leave you guys out. If you have any other thoughts before the NBA trade deadline.
No, I don't have any thoughts on the NBA trade line. I'm more anxious to see what happens.
You know, just send a body somewhere and get the body in return.
So you want to bring Jordan out of retirement,
Switch
right?
bodies around.
Can we bring Jordan on
So,
to the
it's kinda-
Lakers?
you
He
just-
can just play
so
with
pushing
LeBron,
pencils.
right?
You're just kind of
Jason,
moving
real
stuff
quick
around.
here. We talked about NCAA players, right? You talked about the picks coming up.
Sure.
Is there any teams right now that are willing to sell to get those picks, right? Do you see any players on your NCAA list that you're like in the past, like a Ben Simmons or what New Orleans guy? What's his name? I can't remember his name right now.
Lonzo Ball?
No, forget Lonzo. LaMelo, right? Maybe LaMelo. Like those kind of guys. Do you see any kind of talent enough to be able to, that teams would say, hey, I'll send you my two really good players like the Grizzlies did that one year and for this guy.
I mean,
For the
right now, the only guy that you're going to make a risk like that
Cunningham.
for is Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
I mean, because the rest of the guys, I mean, I like Evan Mobley. I mean, he's 7-footer, but, I mean, he's got to prove that he can shoot the 3-ball first before. I mean, it's, a lot of these guys, it's hard to say if they're going to translate to the NBA, but, I mean,
You don't see any big push then coming up at the trade deadline to get that first round pick possible.
no, I don't think so because
Okay.
it's a lottery. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be-
true. I
They're
guess-
drawn out of a hat.
I always forget the
basically.
NBA does the lottery stuff.
Yeah, it's a lottery, and I've always said, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but I wish the NFL would do this because I get sick and tired of seeing these teams that just...
You mean the
you know,
same
they're-
old teams
they're-
every year?
Well, you know, we've seen it before where they're sitting there, the NFL teams at 0-13, 0-14, and they're like, well, hell, we won't even try these last 2 games. We'll get the number 1 overall pick, and my opinion has always been, you know, the NFL should do a lottery. That way, you know, you can't just tank. At least we can see these teams try to play their best game at the end of the season. Because I don't like watching teams just tank at the end of the
No.
season to get a draft pick. I mean, nobody wants to watch that. I mean, Mike, you're the resident NFL expert. Do you enjoy watching teams just tanking at the end of the year?
No, it's not fun at all to watch them tank by any means. I do think it's probably less common than we think it might be when it happens as far as undercover tanking that goes on. I thought it was kind of interesting this past season. We saw kind of a fight for that number 1 battle. I think it was the Jets and the Jaguars. Both of those teams. But at the end of the day, both of those teams I felt like were fighting to win. And there was one game in particular that stood out. Can't remember which one it was, but they ended up getting a victory, which kind of screwed them from Trevor Lawrence. So it would have been the
Jets,
Jaguars.
yeah.
Or the Jets.
It was the Jets.
Yeah, so they could have screwed them from getting Trevor Lawrence and the outcome of that. But they got a victory anyways. When they know if they just tank, lose all their games, then they're guaranteed to get that number 1 pick and get Trevor Lawrence here in the upcoming draft. So I don't know how frequent it really happens. I don't really know what to think of a lottery, considering I don't follow the NBA as closely as you do. I've always been very fine and comfortable with the way the NFL structures their drafts. It's never been an issue to me. So I think it's fair in general the way they do it. But I don't know. I'd be curious to see how that would play out if the NFL ever did something like that.